to lie to you. I'm not going to tell you a white lie. I'm not going to tell you a partial lie. The truth is, this was likely the worst season y'all will have in the last 5 years.
Shut up the Bills! It's not house flag! It's not house flag!
Yeah, we the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, we the Buffalo Bills. You better know that. Look how we throwing and catching, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. You better know that. Look how we running and hitting, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. Reppin' the mafia, yeah. Reppin' the mafia, Bills, yeah. You better know that. Look how we throwing and catching, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. You better know that. Look how we running and hitting, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. Homie, now listen, everyone play their position. Buffalo got a tradition. They say we tripping, they better get out our way. Top of the table, we flipping, we on a mission. Got an unstoppable team, continue to follow your dream by any means. Buffalo, get in the Super Bowl ring. Cause we the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, we the Buffalo Bills. You better know that. Look how we throwing and catching, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. You better know that. Look how we running and hitting, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. Reppin' the mafia, yeah. Reppin' the mafia, Bills, yeah. You better know that. Look how we throwing and catching, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. You better know that. Look how we running and hitting, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. Mafia up in your city, time to get gritty. Screaming and yelling, we bugging. Look at the red and blue.
This is an MVP year for Josh Allen. As an MVP voter, I said this last week. Josh Allen, he looks like an MVP. When you vote for MVP, and I can speak for myself, I think I'm one of 50 voters, you look at a couple things. Who's the best team in football? Who's the best player on that team in football? What do they look like as the best player on that team in football? And how much talent is around that best player on that best team in football?
And good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Coast to Coast podcast. I am your co-host, Beyond 716, coming from here, direct from Los Angeles. And as you may be wondering, where is Whittle? And ladies and gentlemen, I know it's like a late scratch on the injury report that we were not anticipating. Our franchise guy got called in, so he may or may not make an appearance. We'll see. You never know on that front, but we will try to press on. And like the Bills, we have and other great teams, we have a great lineup for you. We do have great depth available, even in the absence of the almighty, as we call him, Whittle around here. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this is the week. And going to say hello to DH. Go Bills. Can you guys feel it? We are 4 days away from Ravens-Bills Sunday night, NBC. Country's going to be watching. Hi, Whittle. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for saying you love the show. I appreciate it. So good to see you all here. So maybe Whittle will be making some comments in here, going a little bit different. But as Whittle is doing his duty, we do have some great guests tonight. So again, we're going to set the tone for you for the Ravens-Bills showdown. We'll preview the Bills season. We'll go over some of the late injuries that we've seen come in for the Buffalo Bills here and kind of get a temperature for that. And we're going to be joined by some great guests from our rivals, the Baltimore Ravens. And what a great rivalry it's really becoming. Two great quarterbacks, two great organizations. So we're really looking forward to it. And I want to say hello to Michael. I want to say hello to Nautica. You're here all the time, and we really appreciate you all as well. And I like being called young fella. I'm in my early 50s. I mean, I'll give you a raise if you were working for me. So I digress. So without further ado, I want to bring on this gentleman we've had on our podcast here before. He's come in recently. Now, if you're on the spaces, he's one of I call him an NFL draft savant. He's just his knowledge of the game in general is just top notch. He's one of the best Bills fans we have. Ladies and gentlemen, Jarek, you are on the stage. Can you hear me, Jarek? How you doing?
Yes, I can. I'm trying.
All righty, there we go. How you doing?
I'm all right, man. I'm trying to fix this camera, so I don't know. You may see my face.
Oh, it's okay. Listen, it's perfectly fine. But, everything's a little off kilter tonight. It's like, our Josh Allen with a late scratch this night. So, and so Steve is ready to go. Q Tuck is ready to go, and Whittle coming strong with the comments here, Jarek. Don't forget the bullet board material for Lamar talking about the free. Whittle is already in mid-season form, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh man, you must have. I
As
don't
you
know.
can see,
I'm a softie, man. I'll try my best, but I'm a softie when it comes to the trash. I'm just soft. I'm a
listen.
softie. Okay.
You know what? Yeah, listen. It's a long season, as we know. Biggest thing for me this week, and we're gonna set this up, and then we're gonna bring on our awesome guests from the Baltimore side shortly. So, but I mean, I've been a Bills fan since 1982. I cannot recall a more anticipated opener for the Bills in all the years I've been a fan. Now, we've seen some great openers over the years, but this one, I went to the Rams game back in 22 when Von Miller made his debut for us, in SoFi here in my backyard of Los Angeles. That was great. But this one here tonight on Sunday night, it just has, you got the last two MVPs. You have the budding rivalry, between the two organizations. The games have been great. They've been close. It's just going to be an amazing atmosphere. Last year at the old Rich Stadium / Highmark / Ralph Wilson, whatever you call it. So, Jarek, I just want to get your quick thoughts on that as we set the table for Sunday night.
Well, first of all, yes, this is it. This is the last year for the stadium, and then we're moving on. We're moving on to greener pastures. I had a lot of great memories in that stadium. I can tell it's going to be emotional. I talked to a few Bills fans, mostly like family members and stuff like that. They talked about the memories in the 90s and in the 80s when it first got built. Even it's crazy. Like you look at some of the generations. Like I had pretty much 4 generations of family members that were in that stadium and that were cheering. Like when you actually take a look at the history, especially for those who have been going to these games for a long time, like this place holds like a lot of memories from. For me personally, like I said, I played a championship game in that stadium. It's my mom's hometown. Shout out to Dunkirk, New York. Won their first ever like it's a small football town. Won their first ever championship not that long ago in that stadium when literally the entire town of Dunkirk, New York, was literally there. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. Like 20,000 people were there just to watch their hometown. So it's a lot of memories, not just from a Bills standpoint, but overall just. Like our lives were damn near in that stadium. And so it's gonna be a very emotional season. I already talked to a few. I know my mom, she's very emotional. She wants to try to go as many games as possible because she's not a game person, but she wants to try to go to as many as possible. And but yeah, it's gonna be emotional. But next year we're gonna move on to greener pastures. And I already heard the next stadium is insane. You go to the top, you can really see the entire city of Buffalo. You can see the skyline. Awesome. And so I can't wait for that. But yeah, this is definitely going to be emotional going into that stadium.
Jarek, I could feel it. My OG Bills fan is my dad. He grew up in, my parents were divorced. I was very young. So Buffalo was like a second home for me. Cheektowaga, he lived in Alden and going to the stadium with him, for many years. And not even just the stadium, but the parking lot has such memories too, right? The tailgating, Hammer's Lot for those that know, right? And all the traditions of the stadium. I do anticipate that will still continue, but it may be a little bit different with the new stadium. So it's hard to say. So it's one of those things where you kind of think of the stadium and amenity wise, it's not that great. It's not that comfortable, right? To sit there. It kind of reminds me here in LA, the Rose Bowl and the LA Coliseum are like that, right? They're very open air stadiums, old school kind of, bench seating, things like that. So, but they have their own charm about them nonetheless, right? Even if you're not getting all those amenities that a SoFi here in LA would give you, right? There's still something special about the stadium. So I just tell anyone, if you have a chance to go this year, I will not have a chance, but if you do get a chance, go to the old barn, as they say, one more time, right? Before they close the doors for good and they go to the new Highmark Stadium, as Bills fans are introduced to the wonderful world of PSLs, right, Jarek? So, but we do press on. You got to keep up with the new NFL. So, but yeah, it's going to be an amazing atmosphere Sunday night. The country's going to be watching, right? It's always the highest rated game of the weekend. And not even, to me, the season always starts on Sunday. I'm still a traditionalist. I know we have the games tomorrow, and that's a great game tomorrow night too for the Super Bowl champion Eagles. But, to me, it really begins once we start on Sunday, and it's going to cap off on an incredible night between two incredible teams. So without further ado, Jarek, we are going to bring on a guest that we've had on before, and I'm glad to introduce him back to the Coast to Coast podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, this man, he does host a podcast. I believe it's called the Barbershop Podcast, and I'm going to let him correct me if I'm wrong on this, because sometimes I do get it wrong, but he is a friend of the show, and we loved having him on last time, and I'm looking forward to it again. Ladies and gentlemen, Trey Frazier, welcome back. How you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm good. Beyond 716. I appreciate you having me on the platform. Also to you, Jarek, appreciate you as well. Hey, your boy Whittle, I need him to not duck smoke. He invited me on the show.
There it is. Look, he
invites me on the show, and for him to not be here, like I don't want to see you in the chat, Silas. I need to see you on the show, in the frame. It's Ravens Bills week 1. Let's go. What we doing?
Yeah. This is why he got me. He got the soldiers. We got soldiers on deck. So
we got the reinforcements in. We made our calls, and again, we want to thank you both. So, but I'm sure knowing Whittle, listen, you do get breaks on your job, right? You're entitled to your 15-minute breaks. Don't be shocked if Whittle makes a small little appearance in here at some point, which I hope happens. So I'm sure he'll be ready. So we look forward to it. But we press on without Whittle, and it's always we always talk like it's hard to do these shows on your own. But I say, Whittle, man, when you're not here. Oh, and speaking of, ladies and gentlemen, is it time to bring him on stage? Why, yes, it is. Whittle 2K makes an appearance.
Yeah, I'm here now.
Yeah,
I'm here now for a hot minute, not too long. Yeah, just so y'all know I'm not lying. That's the shit behind me right there. I'm at work.
Wow.
I'm at work, guys.
I know. Yep.
I'm at work.
Oh, man, you're
dedicated. Listen.
What you got?
One thing I want you to understand, Trey, I don't duck any smoke. I had it a close game before Lamar Jackson made them comments that he made about the MVP. We're going to show you what the MVP look like Sunday. Ratbird is on the menu, okay? Ratbird's on the menu Sunday night.
It's getting deep already. Let's go.
See, I said all that just to get him to come on to pull up.
It worked.
I'm here.
Yeah, it works.
It's a little dark in here. It's a little dark in here because I'm at work, but yeah, I'm here. I'm here, man.
Still high.
I don't duck no smoke.
I love it.
Hey,
the
man.
Dedication is amazing.
Hey, man. Hey, Whittle, appreciate you, man. I appreciate you inviting me on.
Of course, brother. Of course. We do this every year, man.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Oh boy, we got some talk going on in here. We got a Ravens money line play. I'm going to put up a lot of comments here. We're going to fast and furious. This night is about all of you in the chat tonight. So want to say hello and to everyone. And I want to say hello to Steve as well. I see his tweet here, a message about his cousin unfortunately died in the car. Oh, that's horrible. Big time Ravens fan.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Rest in peace on that. But listen, we'll keep that flow alive here as we do. And again, this is just this is becoming – we're on the precipice of this becoming one of the great rivalries in modern football if this continues, right? I mean, we've seen some great playoff games already. We've seen the regular season games and, the back and forth, the MVP chatter. How does it look from your side on that too? Do you kind of feel that as well in terms of the rivalry brewing like that? Or do you still feel?
I think you're the first person that I've come across that's really kind of framed it that way as a potential rivalry because, I'm in Baltimore. I'm right outside the city. So when you think of rivals, you're always thinking about the Pittsburgh Steelers in terms of that rivalry, right? Now, Pittsburgh is, I don't want to say they've been down and out, but they certainly haven't had a lot of playoff noise for about 8-9 years now. And so now you're looking elsewhere in the conference and you see Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and those guys. And then you see what Buffalo has done over the last several years with Josh Allen and Sean McDermott and the rest of those guys. And yes, there's clearly a rivalry between Buffalo and Kansas City because of all the AFC Championship matches, the divisional round matches, some of the epic performances by those teams, the back and forth, the 13 seconds, all those things and then plus the regular season matchups, right? So there seems to be a lot more of a rivalry with Kansas City versus Buffalo than it does Buffalo versus Baltimore. Now, like you, it's become exciting. Obviously, last year in the playoffs was, what was a down time for me, but I would say that this has become one of the more exciting matchups throughout the league. And not just the teams, but the individual performances as well. We got Derrick Henry last year in the offseason, and Derrick Henry kind of made his, not so much his Raven debut, but in that game against you guys on the Sunday night, he let it be known that, hey, I'm a part of this team now. I'm going to be a part of this potential, rivalry back and forth, however you want to call it. And then, on the Buffalo side, you got the quarterback. That defense is always, no matter who you guys, interchange in that defense, it's always going to be, in that top 10, category right there. And so you're the first person that really, categorized it as sort of a rivalry when, you guys in Kansas City seem to have one already. I think this one between the Ravens and the Bills, there's some momentum towards it. Bills Mafia, Ravens Flock. There appears to be a lot more banter back and forth, especially on social media. I've seen it quite a bit. I've seen I've seen Ravens fans kind of, poking the bear at the Bills Mafia a little bit. And so I think when you start to get those things, I think fan interaction, I think these teams being good, and I think the combination of all of that, I think is gonna, curtail to a really great rivalry, hopefully. But the Ravens got to get one in the playoffs. Regular season, we good, but postseason, the Ravens got to find a way to get there.
It's amazing how similar it is to us and the Chiefs, right? Where we do well against them in the regular season, and we just haven't quite been able to get them in the playoffs just yet. The other thing about this is, to varying degrees, both of our quarterbacks have had a lot of shade thrown on him, either maybe coming into the draft, where Lamar slipped all the way to the end of the first round. You hear people talk about he was a running back, and I always hated that comment to me. And we've seen both of these quarterbacks kind of defy those odds in various ways. Josh wasn't recruited much out of college. He was an afterthought. And just to watch Lamar, how he's worked on his craft, and Whittle's mentioned how he's become so much of a better thrower, better passer, just he's taken his game to another level the last couple of years, and we've seen it, especially with the offensive coordinator change. I think there's kind of connection there too. But I think it's just something where I see the shots going back and forth. Sometimes sometimes it gets a little ugly for me. I don't like that because both these guys are really likable guys, right? They've kind of overcome such odds. Again, different levels, different challenges, but of that draft class, they were the kind of most scrutinized guys, and they've turned out to be the two best ones. Who would have thought, right? So I think that's something I wish we would celebrate more, both between our fan bases. But this comes with the territory in our world today of Twitter and everything like that. So listen, it's all a good fun. I like to go back and forth, and we love Kika. He comes on here, and I love his intensity, especially.
Shout out to my guy Trippy. That's my
he's
guy
great.
right there.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, he's excellent. So we love it. So hopefully he'll join us at some point, but he's around somewhere, I'm sure. So we'll definitely make it happen on that front. So what are you looking forward to most? Actually, let me ask you a little bit about Baltimore. Let me get a little temperature in terms of injuries, maybe in terms of the line. How's everything looking in terms of your overall health of your team right now, and anything glaring that should be mentioned at this point?
So the one thing that's glaring right now for me, and I'm going to be 100% honest here, because we're approaching the part of the year where we're on sensory overload when it comes to sports. You got baseball playoffs right around the corner. You got the W playoffs coming. NBA's about to start. NFL's about to start. It's just so many things that's kind of happening as we move forward in the next several weeks. So I have not been in tune with Ravens preseason games. I've seen several highlights here and there, but life gets to life,
Sure.
a lot, when you have a family and kids and stuff like that, vacations and and all that stuff. But I will say there's a couple of things for me that I'm gonna be watching. The first thing is the Isaiah Likely foot injury that that took place during training camp. See, the Ravens like to do this with the media here locally, and sometimes the media lets them get away with it, but they always tease the fan base when it comes to these kinds of injuries, right? So it's like, okay, is this guy going to be ready for week 1? And coach will come out and do his coach speak is, yeah, he's getting closer. No doubt he'll be fine. All the coach speak, but at the end of the day, you kind of have to temper it with some certain expectations that they're probably going to tread lightly with Isaiah Likely, because to me, he's the guy that I would put right now. I would put him ahead of Mark Andrews in terms of, he's a younger tight end. He makes all the crazy catches. He's clutch. He's a dog. All those things, right? Mark Andrews, that's another story. I don't want to talk about the missed 2-point conversion. At that, my reaction to that was that they probably should trade Mark Andrews. I've been of the opinion that at some point they need to trade Mark Andrews and elevate Isaiah Likely to tight end 1, right? So, that's one of my concerns, is how ready is Isaiah Likely going to be for week 1? And if he doesn't play week 1, then obviously your focus, if you're a Bills defense, you're focusing more on Mark Andrews. And then moving forward after that, is this now a week to week thing? Is this going to be, he's going to miss week 2? Is he going to miss week 3? I would expect that by no later than week 4. Like I would think I would like to see him week 4, but I don't think the injury is that to the point of where they should just throw him out there week 1 without really getting, the reps and things like that. So, that's one of my concerns, right? And the second thing I'm looking at is the kicker position. Justin Tucker, future Hall of Famer, and honestly, I got questions about Hall of Fame because of the incident that he was accused of. It was a thing that was going around town around here since 2015, and people just kind of ignored the situation until and all it took was for him to have one bad season, sort of I wouldn't say a bad season, but bad for his standards, because to me he's the best kicker in the league, to me, right?
One of the greatest ever. Yep,
absolutely. Exactly. So when you have to replace a guy like that, and not because of performance, but because of off the field issues and not being able to avoid all the bad PR and stuff like that, that's a question mark. Because and Tyler Loop, and this is the kid that's going to replace Justin Tucker in that kicker spot. Tyler Loop has had a pretty solid preseason training camp. He's kicked long distance field goals. He's been kicking from 60 plus. I don't know what the rate is, but he's certainly capable of doing those things. I just, and shout out to my co-host Maestro, because he's like, look, man, you're just saying too much about as far as, the team goes. But I'll just warn the fan base, look, just be ready for some growing pains. Because, we've been spoiled by Justin Tucker for 11, 12 years. We've been spoiled.
Oh, you have. Yes. Yes.
Because anytime he went out there, you knew that ball was going through the uprights. You had no doubt. Even if it was from 60 plus, you had no doubt. Last year, it was a totally different story. And it was the first time that I ever had to feel like, yo, is he gonna make this kick or is he not gonna make this kick? That was the first time I ever felt like that about Justin Tucker last season. So now that he's out, Tyler Loop is in. He's had a good, solid training camp preseason. This is where the games get real now. And this is where these types of players in these positions develop pressure situations, being in the moment, being able to execute your craft. These are the types of things, for a team that is contending for a Super Bowl championship, right? So those are the two things that I would be concerned about. You got the Isaiah Likely, foot injury, and then as far as the kicker position goes, you're replacing a guy that should be in the Hall of Fame, but because of the incidents off the field, when the ballot starts coming out, if he doesn't get a job elsewhere, those are going to be the things that are first going to be brought up. Is the off the field stuff. So
and it all depends, right? It's always, if things play out and these things are true, I mean, unfortunately, that's just what he's going to have to deal with. But I get your general point though about, I mean, I'm a Yankee fan and we had Mariano Rivera forever, and you got so used to it, right? You're Yankee, but he was just so automatic. Right. But once we lost Mo, it's like, wait a minute. Okay, wait a minute. Now we have a real closer problems for the first time. Right. We're not used to that. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a little similar, I feel, for the Ravens right now, is that Tucker was just so automatic. It's like, okay, he's just kind of there. You take it for granted. And now all of a sudden you have to think about that. So, I mean, Jarek knows. I mean, right now, Jarek, is Tyler Bass going to play this week? Have you heard anything on that in terms of where he is with his injury?
I didn't hear anything yet for Tyler Bass. I would assume that he's going to play. I haven't heard anything. I didn't even see that he was on the injury report, but I think he's going to.
That's right. Okay.
But I ain't gonna lie to you, our backup kicker has been pretty solid. Like for training camp, practice camp, for what we've seen during the preseason, was able to make some kicks. But obviously, Tyler Bass is big just because of the leg and just because of the leg that he has for the fact that he can hit 50 yards, 60 yards even. That's going to be really, really huge, particularly for this matchup, which I think this game is. I don't know if it's going to be a defensive game, but this is going to be a pretty close type matchup. You need everything that you can get. So hopefully Tyler Bass can make it.
By the way, how about this? I'm looking at the weather forecast as it's almost 100 degrees here in Los Angeles area today. 62 degrees on Sunday for the high, 46 at night. Oh, that sounds so good. 10 to 15 miles an hour wind, so it won't be too, but we'll see. But wow, Dog has made his prediction. Oh no, he does not like this one. When Dog does not have confidence, I'm concerned. All right, I'm going to admit, I've always said if I need a good pick me up for the Bills, Dog is my guy. He always seems to find a way to get my spirits up. But I like what he says. It's still, and that's the thing we have to keep perspective. This is a monster game, right? Because of the fact this could be an implication for the 1 seed, right? It has a very, very high potential for that, but it is only week 1 too, as well. So that's I was even looking at your schedule after our game. The Ravens got some tough games coming up early in the season. So
yes, sir.
Even if they beat us, they better be careful, because if you slip up, because the Bills, if you look at their next 6 after that, I mean, we got the Jets, Miami, Atlanta, Saints. Like, we can start ripping off, and we can eventually be 6-1. And it could be almost like Kansas City last year where we beat them, but Kansas City had all those wins, stack it up. So it's one of those things you got to build off that if you do win in Buffalo on Sunday and go forward with it and not take the pedal off the gas, because
you got Detroit in there. We got Detroit week 3. We got Kansas City after that in week 4. Cleveland would be our next game. That would be our home opener. Cleveland always plays us tough.
They do.
The Bengals, week 5, I believe that is. The Bengals always give us problems. And but that's what happens, man. It's the AFC North. It's the toughest division, let alone in the conference, it's the toughest division. But most years it's the toughest in all of football. So that's what you get when you're the Ravens and you got to play Cleveland twice, Cincinnati twice, and Pittsburgh twice.
Yep, absolutely. Now, there's another thing about the Ravens. I always tease, they always say there's 3 givens in life: death, taxes. Baltimore Ravens always seem to have a good draft. I mean, it feels like every year you look up at a team like Baltimore, even from when Ozzie Newsome was general manager years ago, right? The Ravens always seem to just stay where they are. And all of a sudden you look at their draft, like, how did they get this player? How did they get this player? And I just wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit and get your excitement level. I mean, you guys got Mike Green, you got Malachi Starks, and Peebles in the 6th round, but I just wanted to get your opinion. I mean, is there anyone that really stands out to you that you're really excited about, that you've heard some good things about in terms of producing this year?
Yeah, Mike Green. Mike Green is the one I'm excited about. And it came as a surprise because I believe he was projected to go earlier than what he did, but because of some legal things, on his side, there were some teams that were kind of skeptical about picking him in the draft, in that part of the draft, right? So, the Ravens, since the Ray Rice incident, have sort of had this attitude that, we're going to pick guys with high integrity and, and all that stuff. And look, and that's all good and all that. But, the league, as there's guys that are great off the field. And then there's guys that, they get themselves in trouble. They make certain mistakes and, sometimes legal, troubles, follow. But I've known the history of this league, since I've been watching it. And I've been watching the league for about, 23, 24 years. Some of the best players in the league have legal troubles and, they figure out a way to get back on track. Sometimes these teams, depending on the type of player you are, they will go to bat for you. As long as you are a productive player, they will certainly have your back and they will certainly allow you to be on the team. The Ravens, they surprised me with this one. They took a chance on Mike Green despite his legal, situation. Sure. And I think it's beautiful. I think it's a great thing to, be able to give the guy the confidence to say, hey, look, we understand you got some legal things going on, but, we think you're going to fit well with this defense. We think you're going to be a star in this league. We think you're going to be one of the best at your position. So I like the fact that the Ravens went that route with a Mike Green in that situation because he was certainly projected to go higher than what he did.
No, absolutely. And listen, it's all about in certain cases, he wasn't charged and things like that. And it sounds like the Ravens, you do your due diligence on these. I mean, we went through this with the punter, Matt Reese, a couple of years ago where he was accused. And it turns out, I mean, the Bills, they still let him go, but they still did right by him, even though and it turned out that everything was dropped and there was a lot of falsehoods in the case. So, yeah, but you're right. And it's all about Mike Green's response from here. Right. And if he does the right things and if he's surrounded and has this opportunity, right, that things in life do happen. It's true. I mean, sometimes you do get wrongfully accused. I mean, it does happen. So, it's all about his response from here. He's got to take it as, hey, I'm a rookie now. I'm in the NFL. I'm blessed and I could go forward and make the best of this. And it'll be in my rearview mirror for good. So it's really, incumbent upon him on how he does that.
For sure.
Forward. So, yeah. So we'll see, see what kind of play he has week 1 and going forward. And again, week 1 is really a little bit of an extension. I know Steve Noble said something earlier about, I like this as a week 1 game, but I also hate that it's a week 1 game. Right. I wish this was like week 8, week 9, smack in the middle of the year when both of our teams are kind of getting their guys back and kind of, hitting their groove. And, week 1 is just, we've seen so many games. I mean, look at last year where the Saints were 2-0.
Right.
I was like, the Saints have a great offense. And how did that turn out?
Yeah, I fell for it. I ain't going to
Me too, a little bit. Yeah, we all do. I fall for it with the Bills over the years. Jarek knows when Rob Johnson was cooking for us, right, Jarek? Remember we had a couple of quick starts and we're like, under Greg Williams. Oh, we
y'all went 4-0 one year with Trent Edwards.
We did 5-1 actually. We were 5-1.
We should have went 6-1. We weren't going to beat the Cardinals. We had Marshawn Lynch and Trent Edwards, and that defense was getting rough.
Yep, absolutely. So, but hey guys, we're about 35 minutes in. Bills fans here, you know what we got to do around here? We got to pay bills once in a while. So we just got to run a word from our sponsors. Trey and Jarek will be right back, about 50 seconds.
For the best Italian food in Western New York, Elliott Apollo's, call 716-825-3675. The Lardon Construction Group.
Fubo TV, the official streaming service of Do Champions. FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Do Champions.
For all your summertime needs, beauty pools, as well as kayak pools.
CX Chronicles, your total customer solutions focused manager. W.GG, the official energy drink of Do Champions.
Hey, Sons of Erie, our artwork looks better on your walls. Hamburg Brewing, please visit our tap room on Boston State Road, Hamburg, New York. And finally,
Fat Boy Surf Club for all your surfing needs.
And welcome back. And one other public service announcement. The deadline is September 7th. Give us a follow at Do Champions, where we have a lot of great shows coming up. We have a great giveaway contest coming up. An old style Josh Allen jersey will be given away. Just give us a follow. You'll see the program rules on there. I believe Goodbye Variant, one of our great Bills fans, he's putting it up. So give them a follow, retweet it, do what you got to do. Follow the directions. It's pinned right on Do Champions. Give it a go. I mean, free is for me. So one of my best friends entered the contest for our great fan Leishan, got in the top 15. We won tickets to see Bills Jets on Monday night in 2023. Flew out to New York, got to take. Sometimes you just got to retweet stuff, and sometimes you get lucky, right? So, and don't forget, Powerball is $1.4 billion tonight. So maybe someone's rich. Yeah, maybe we could buy a piece of these. I would say this years ago, guys. Hey, we could buy a piece of a football team, and not these days. 1.4 billion barely gets you in the building, right? So, right, Jarek, maybe we could own part like Vince Carter and our owners that part owners. We could
Vince Carter and the soccer player Josie Altidore,
and the great Tracy McGrady, by the way, one of my favorite players growing up. So it's pretty surreal to see Tracy McGrady and Vince Carter as part owners of the Bills. It's pretty awesome. So. But anyway, so even Matt said that jersey's more beautiful in person. So yeah, get on that for sure. So if you please get there, give us a follow, because not only our show here, we got some awesome shows coming up here to get you ready for the Bills season coming up, which hopefully will be one to remember, but we'll get into that as we go forward. So let's push forward into this game. And I also want to touch on some other things as we go forward. Maybe we'll get into some season predictions, things like that as well. We'll have some fun here. We're at that time of year. Of course, tomorrow night's the first game, but let's pivot into Sunday night. So we looked at some of the injury report on our side. We did have a couple surprise injuries. Jarek, any thoughts on? I was a little surprised to see Keon Coleman on there in terms of a groin. Now, you know how the Bills do play things. They do play a little bit close to the vest in terms of injuries. We're very, very conservative on that, which I think is a good thing, especially this time of year. But in terms of, Trey, and in terms of some other injuries, how you feeling overall, and where do you have a major concern going into Sunday night?
Well, ironically enough, some of the injuries that we don't really have a lot of injuries, but the injuries have been to players like Christian Benford. He's also kind of dealing with the groin injury as well. So yeah, him and Keon Coleman have been dealing with some of these injuries. It's a little concerning. I mean, I don't play around with groin injuries. I've had that before in, playing college. That thing, it's going to bother you for the entirety of the season. Like, unless that's, you can't, you have to rest on that groin. Like, if you want that thing to be fully 100% clear, you probably need like maybe 2.5 weeks of just 2, maybe 3 weeks of just rest nonstop, not doing any sort of activity, not straining on it. So it's groin injuries, like some of these kind of minor nicking injuries that we don't think that it's too serious that we can recover from. It's going to bother these players. They're not, but at the same time, these are NFL players. They're never going to be at 100%. They're always going to have nagging, lingering injuries that's going to bother them for the entirety of the year, ultimately until the thing is over. And then they have to do it, then they have reconstruct, they have to go through surgery attempts, stuff like that. That's when everything's over. So, but no, Keon Coleman, obviously we expect a lot of huge things for him. He's improved a lot based off of his route tree. Some of the advanced things that we've kind of ran in that particular part He's gotten a lot stronger. He's gotten quicker, especially off his release. He changed up his release package in terms of how things really kind of go. Again, Keon Coleman is extremely strong, extremely physical. So when it comes to the back shoulder throws, throwing post fades, or just regular sort of fades, he's going to be an extremely huge target for Josh Allen to throw the football in, especially on those one-on-one matchups, where a corner could be dripped all around him. But it's kind of like what Jamar Chase said, bro. Even when I'm covered, I'm wide open. I'm covered and I'm wide open simply because I'm that confident that I can, pretty much destroy my opponent. So, Keon Coleman has been the best player arguably through camp. It sucks that he does have a minor injury. That's it's gonna nag him for the entirety of the year. I just hope that it doesn't escalate to being a severe injury, because if he gets like a tear in his groin, he's done. He's done for at least about a month or two. Yeah. So hopefully the minor injuries doesn't really escalate to the big time injuries, because that's what really plagued us last year. And so hopefully that doesn't really happen for some of our key guys. But like you said, when it comes to McDermott, when it comes to this, especially when it comes to this new training, this new medical staff that we hired, they take things a little bit too slowly. They're not going to rush players if need be. But so we'll see. Like I said, it's limited practice. It's not like these players are missing full practices. They're limited. Even Tyler Bass with the hip was limited in practice. We'll find out and see. But yeah, if we don't have Keon Coleman for that game, it's just going to continue to limit this offense. It's going to make it a lot easier for Baltimore, because their secondary, I believe, is the main strength of their defense. So we need every piece that we possibly can get. But
we sure do.
If we feel like we don't have to rush and we're just going to take it on the chin, take it on the, it is what it is. I'd rather just miss Keon Coleman for about a game or two, let him rest, than simply miss him for a large extent if that lingering injury continues to worsen.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to quickly put up our injury report here on the screen just to get it official. You can see one good bit of news, Jarek, as well. Khalil Shakir was a full participant. So that was good news, because, he's been out for quite a while. Of course, we know Dwayne Carter, unfortunately, tore his Achilles. He's going to be out for a long time. And we'll see what happens with Benford, and we'll see what happens with Tre'Davious and also Keon Coleman. But he said it's not an extensive injury report, but it's key positions, especially against a team like the Baltimore Ravens, where you really need all hands on deck, especially in the corner room, because the Ravens have significantly improved their wideouts. They brought in DeAndre Hopkins is now your third receiver. I know it's not, this is a D-Hop from 8 years ago or 6 years ago, but he's still a productive player. He's still a veteran, knows what he's got to do, right? So he's going to be probably a nice safety blanket for Lamar, especially without Likely, right? I think that's something else that could be a key cog for them as he recovers over the next few weeks. So maybe they won't have to rush him back, in that case. So any concerns on the offensive line, Trey, in terms of the Ravens? I feel like, maybe the Bills, one of the keys for our side, I think, is controlling the ball, running the football, trying to limit the possessions of Lamar and the Ravens attack. So I just want to get your thoughts on that and how your line is shaping up this year.
So there's one battle right now, and it feels like the fan base is kind of, chimed in on this battle on the right guard position. And that's Daniel Falele, who's, kind of had his ups and downs over the course of the season last year. There's been a lot of outcries to get Ben Cleveland a chance to be in the starting role at right guard. But it seems like John Harbaugh is more, astute at just keeping Falele in the starting guard position. So now in the preseason and in training camp, so there were several plays where, Falele just got, bulldozed over, and, they got to our quarterback. I'm not sure that's, that means, hey, just put Ben Cleveland in his spot and it'll change, because I think Ben Cleveland has shown flashes, but I also think that, there's a reason why he's the second, he's the second string guard. There's a reason for that, right? So there's been a lot of tug and pull, with that situation on that side of the line. But as far as everybody else, I'm pretty confident with the rest of the line. Ronnie Stanley seems like he's back to form, after suffering some, gruesome injuries, the past couple of years. Rosengarten on that tackle spot is, he's solid for us. Voorhees playing the guard position is pretty good for us as well. So I'm pretty confident that the line is going to, perform solid. And even if they don't in certain situations, Lamar Jackson is, I don't want to put him in the conversation of old, but he's now have had a lot of, he's had some years in this league now, for a quarterback with the running ability that he has, that he can still, kill you from the pocket, with his legs. If something breaks down in the offensive line, where that's concerned. So I'm really good about my starting offensive lineman.
Absolutely. So, but just to, for us, that's probably one of the keys. Of course, the turnover battle, which I know is cliche, but it's just the truth, right? In terms of, you got to control the ball. You have to play smart against the top teams in the league. And sometimes it's just a matter of not making that big mistake, right? We've seen it many, many times over the years. We've experienced it in our, when we were kind of coming up in 2020 and 2021, we play certain games like, we outgained this team by a certain amount of yards, 150, 200. We made critical mistakes and we lost games that we shouldn't have. So I think that's going to be a very big key. So in terms of, we could start pivoting a little bit. We're about 46 minutes in, and I'm going to put this out to the group. If you have game predictions, maybe we're going to move a little bit more into this topic now, as we all want to know what we're all going to feel about this game on Sunday night. Jarek, I'd like to start with you in terms of confidence level, kind of go through. I want to take your temperature, where you're at in terms of this game, and maybe we could lay a score on us if you'd wish, but that's up to you. You don't have to, but if you'd like to bestow that on us, that would be awesome.
Man, this is a tricky game. I can't sit up here and say in outright and confidence say that we're gonna completely win. I know a lot of Bills fans may just be disappointed with what I'm saying, but no, it's tricky because the Ravens are, I think, not from a talent and roster standpoint, they're probably the most talented team in the NFL, just top to bottom. I think their secondary wise is going to cause teams a lot of problems, and I think as the weeks goes by, this Baltimore team, if we do rematch them in the playoffs, they're only going to be a lot better. We also don't, I think for us, I think we're also going to get a lot better as well because we don't have Larry Ogunjobi, who can be included into our rotation because he's a penetrating 3-tech who specializes in rushing the quarterback. You now kind of miss that value, and now you have to rely on rookie players. And even though the talent standpoint there, they're rookies for a reason. And so when you're running a lot more advanced, more advanced looks, advanced stunts and loops, it starts to be, again, like they're rookies. Not every player is going to be able to pick up and perform 100%. There might be some mishaps here and there. So as the season goes on, obviously when we get Larry Ogunjobi back and then Michael Hoyt, who's going to be included, again, he may not get 9 or 10 sacks that people are expecting him to, but he plays literally 3 or 4 different positions. You can line him up in so many different areas where you can run nickel, run dime looks, and he can play either as a stand-up linebacker or as your edge. So both teams are going to get significantly better. The thing is, just for this game, though, again, is just looking at from a matchup standpoint, is I have questions about the Ravens' interior offensive line. Obviously, we just talked, Trey talked about the interior offensive line battles, what's going on there. Obviously, center with Tyler, it's fine. But the guard spots is something that I am going to be a little interested in because we've gotten bigger. And even though that the rookie players, like I just mentioned, they're more powerful, penetrating, wide gap defensive tackles combined with Ed Oliver in the rotation and, knowing how we've gotten, how we believe we're going to get a lot better in the run. We all know our linebackers, they may not be the biggest, they're undersized, but they can fill, they can man up in gaps, they can fill, and they can definitely fill and process a lot faster as well. So, when we want to prioritize stopping the run, I think we showed in the first half against the Ravens game last year that we can. Any team that we play against, if we want to prioritize stopping the run, we can. The problem is that when you're in more of that base defense and we don't really use, again, we use a lot of simulated pressures, but we don't really blitz a lot. We use a lot of, simulated pressures, which, again, could confuse a lot of the bad offenses. But when it comes to the great offenses, of course, like we've seen what happened. So there's a lot of things that even for as Bills fans, we want to see particularly change. Obviously with Lamar Jackson, Lamar can literally ruin your entire game plan, even if you run everything perfectly because of his legs. And the fact that he's improved so much as a passer to a point where even simulated pressures, that's not really going to fool him all that much. I thought he did a really good job in terms of playing within the offense, going through progressions a lot more smoothly, and, was able to recognize more of the simulated, more disguised, sort of blitzes and coverages that he was able to see his way. So in terms of just the matchups that I'm looking forward to, I would say that for an offensive side, looking at the Buffalo Bills, it's the run game. We got to, you have to. I don't think Josh Allen is going to be throwing for 300 yards against that secondary. I don't think so. Obviously, the Ravens, I'm curious to see what they play, because in week 4, Kyle Hamilton played way more, on the line of scrimmage. Why? Because there wasn't any sort of confidence at all that our receivers can create separation. So the Baltimore Ravens simply played a lot of man coverage. They played a lot of kind of cover 2, and cover 2, maybe sometimes even a one high look, and they brought Kyle Hamilton down the line of scrimmage. Marlon Humphrey was a lot more in the slot, and it was just curtains. We couldn't really do anything for that. We have man beaters for this specific reason, right? With Josh Palmer and with Keon Coleman. Those are supposed to be your man beaters. That's what we paid them a lot of money for. Or we invested draft capital for. So I could see the Ravens once again using Kyle Hamilton against the line of scrimmage, because you drafted Malachi Starks, who's one of the most rangy safeties on their team. He's rangy as all hell. He's a rookie, so could we fool him? That's something that we're going to see. But if the Ravens have a lot of confidence, and maybe Trey can talk about it, if they have a lot of confidence that Malachi Starks can man that, don't be surprised if you see a lot of one high looks. Otherwise, again, Kyle Hamilton could play back more of that deep third zone. His best spot, though, is against that line of scrimmage, more of like a Jamal Adams sort of caliber player, because he's just so damn good rushing the quarterback.
He's a scary player.
He's an insane player. So we got to run the football. We have to run the football. Let these linebackers continue to flow. We could try to attack the seam if possible, but there's not a lot of weaknesses with the Baltimore Ravens with their secondary linebacking crew, other than we have to try to establish more of a ground game so that we can come off of play action. We can try to attack their immediate game. But yeah, from a schematic standpoint, that's going to be hard. And just to kind of flip around just real quick before we kind of go to Trey, is I would say that for us, again, we took away Derrick Henry the first time. We took away that, and we said, you know what, Lamar, if you throw for 400 yards, then so be it. But we're not going to allow Derrick Henry to run all over us. We have gotten a lot bigger in the trenches, like I said. We got both our linebackers back. We got Taylor Rapp back and Cole Bishop. They both can play in the box. I don't think one of them is like a fantastic free, but they can both play in that line of scrimmage free safety sort of role. So in terms of what we can do in coverage, normally we are a team that loves to run a lot of cover 3 shell. Sometimes we do play some kind of quarters coverage and bring everyone else, in shallow. Isaiah Likely was the one tight end that could stretch the field. Isaiah Likely was kind of that one guy that can stretch high. Mark Andrews was a guy that can kill you down low. Now that he's gone, do they have a tight end that can continue to stretch the field vertically? That's something that we're going to find out. Maybe it's Mark Andrews. We'll find out what that is. But no, it's going to be a tricky game it's going to be a tricky game for sure. And I think because both teams are missing key pieces, we're just not going to see the full extent of what their offenses and defenses do from a schematic standpoint, not until we get into a rematch, potentially if we do face each other in the playoffs.
I would be very surprised if we didn't. And this leads to a couple questions. And Trey, I'll lead you with a couple of these that Whittle asked.
Yeah.
He did ask about, speaking of tight ends, he asked about Kolar. I believe he's a 6'6" tight end. He's like a third guy on the team. And then he also asked about impact from Zay Flowers. I figured I'd throw those out there. Whittle had some questions, and then kind of go to you for a prediction. And then I'll give my quick prediction, and then we'll spin around and do some random spit firing for the NFL season. We'll get them on file here. So
yeah, no doubt. So as far as Charlie Kolar, he's tight end number 3. So he's more of a blocking tight end. But I can have some confidence in him at tight end 2, just for this week coming, because obviously Isaiah Likely was most likely going to miss this game. So Kolar is going to be in for blocking situations, but every now and then he can be sneaky and kind of beat you down the field if you're not really paying attention. But obviously you're not game planning for Charlie Kolar, right? So you're just saying, hey, if Andrews, you're the number one tight end, we're not going to allow you to kill us underneath. So, we're going to make Kolar try to beat us down the field. So, we'll see how that plays out. But I feel confident in his abilities to pass catch if we need him to do that. As far as Zay Flowers is concerned, Zay Flowers, to me, he's that dude, man. Like he's very sneaky, sneaky fast, sneaky slivery, can, beat the line, jump the line off the break and, beat you down the field. He just kills you with the speed. And I think he's going to be a huge factor in this game. And, I appreciate y'all bringing him up because I totally forgot that he wasn't available to us in the playoffs against you guys. So, so that's another dynamic that the Bills are going to have to, be ready for. You talked about likely not being there, but now Zay Flowers is back and you didn't see him in the playoffs, but now you're going to see him here. And how does that play into the game plan for Buffalo's defense? So I feel real confident in his abilities, to get the job done. And then, you talked about DeAndre Hopkins. The Ravens have this thing with, veteran wide receivers. You go back to Derek Mason, Anquan Bolden, Steve Smith Sr., Odell Beckham. Like they have a thing where they will sign a veteran receiver, on the cheap, and he'll end up being that security blanket, that third down, machine, at some point during the regular season. So DeAndre Hopkins, I think, is going to be a huge addition for us, right? So, and as far as this matchup is concerned, I look for a couple of things in this game. I'm looking for, at least from a mental standpoint, because the NFL is really good when they do these schedules. So like they did it to us last year. We played the Chiefs in the AFC title game. We lost at home. We opened the season in Kansas City last year, right? And we almost, came away with a victory, if not for Isaiah Likely's toe, out of bounds there. This year, same thing. Lose to the Bills in the divisional round. Put us on the schedule for Sunday night against, the team that, knocked us out. So, we're doing this. We're doing this for a second year in a row. And how do the Ravens, from a mental standpoint, respond? Now, to answer that, I think they're going to respond quite well. I think they're going to play their game. I think, like I talked about Zay Flowers being back in this lineup, I think he's going to be a huge factor. I think the offensive line is going to play better. I think this defense, and one name that we haven't talked about, Jair Alexander, who got waived by the Packers and picked up by the Ravens, which a great signing for the Ravens. Unexpected. The moment the Packers cut him, I said, oh, we got to get that guy. We got to get him on the squad. So now our secondary is, loaded with talent. Kyle Hamilton got his bag. Nate Wiggins, being a second-year corner, he's going to do great. Marlon Humphrey, I suspect Marlon Humphrey may play a little bit of safety on certain situations. He's getting older, little bit slower, still got some ball instincts, but I think there's going to be situations where you might see him in nickel, slot situations, or maybe play a little bit of safety here and there. So this secondary is, you're really going to have to figure out, who you guys got as far as wide receivers are concerned to go ahead and go up against the secondary. So I saw you guys get Gabe Davis back. Yep. And that was a very quiet release by the Jags. And I was, one of my other, friends is a Buffalo Bills fan. I was like, I thought he was in Jacksonville. And she said, yeah, they released him. And I said, whoa, that was a real quiet release, because I had no idea that he was on the street. So, and I guess that's great for you guys, because Gabe Davis did some great things for you guys, a few
Yep.
years ago. So
Sure.
So
Yep.
you get Gabe Davis back. He's familiar with the offensive system. He's familiar with the quarterback. And so, he's probably going to be the guy to be able to, is he the number one? Like, is he the number one receiver on Buffalo, or is that going to be Keon Cole?
No. Right now, Gabe Davis is on our practice squad.
Oh, okay.
And he's still coming back from injury. So it's sort of like a move where it doesn't impact anything now. Maybe as the season goes on, if there's a trade or an injury, let's hope there's not too many. Although Curtis Samuel has shown he does get injured from time to time. So, that I think it's I think it's just a no-lose move for being to bring him in. Like I said, for the experience, even if he's on the practice squad helping out, or just maybe later in the year, if he gives us just another guy who can stretch the field a little bit. We had questions about Jair Alexander. I did look up the injury report for the Ravens. It's pretty.
He's on there.
He is. He's limited today.
Yep.
Donald, excuse my pronunciation, Falele, I think a guard. He was limited with an
Daniel Falele. I talked about
Daniel
him earlier.
Falele. Yes, you did. Sorry.
Yep.
Isaiah Likely, of course, DMP, and then Patrick Ricard, fullback half. So you guys are pretty healthy in retrospect. But again, like Jarek said, some of the injuries that could potentially be here could be impactful. So even though there's not a lot, there are some very interesting
Ricard is huge.
Things going on.
That's our fullback right there.
Yep.
Ricard is going to be huge if we don't have him, because now, you take away that extra blocker in the run game, and now it makes it so easier to run up on Derrick Henry in the backfield. So that could be huge in this matchup.
Yep, absolutely. So as we pivot to our quick picks on this, so just about this game, one little thing that kind of caught my attention. Our friend Zbot over at Bills Fanatics tweeted, the Ravens, ladies and gentlemen, are now favored in Vegas by 1.5 in this game. So this spread is moving hard. Vegas loves the Ravens. I'll just tell you that right now. For all you gamblers out there, they love the Ravens. Now, and again, I understand why. Again, the analytics show, I mean, they're some of their, big, I mean, just again, you just look at the roster, you look at the production that they put up. It's understandable. I get it. The Bills have some key injuries. Now, having said this, right, sometimes I think the Bills thrive off of this. I'm kind of glad. I kind of hope this gets back to the team a little bit in terms of them being underdog. Say, hey, you're home. You went undefeated last year at home, and you're underdogs in your own building to start the season. So I kind of hope that it does. I mean, in terms of that, we need listen, and sometimes teams thrive off of that. We'll have to see, how it goes. DHS for my prediction. Now, I'm going to share a lot of what Jarek said. This is a very tough matchup. We've seen Dog have his trepidations about this game too, and whatnot. I think it's going to be an uncomfortable game at times for Bills fans, in terms of, I think Lamar's going to get his, so to speak. To ask them to hold this team under 24, I think is a lot to ask in this time environment. Again, the weather's not going to be a factor. It's going to be a pretty clean field. I think one of the keys to this game too, I feel like especially the Ravens, the Bills were like this for a while, love to play ahead. When the Ravens get going, they're like that snowball going down. They just can overwhelm you. It just grows. Once they get, because then you got to deal with Derrick Henry and Lamar and the threats that they do. Right. But at least if you could get up on them, I think the key for the Bills guys is, for everybody out there, we got to stay ahead of them, got to stay ahead of schedule again, it's hard to make the Ravens one-dimensional, so to speak, Trey, but at least it maybe forces them a little bit. So gets the crowd going, maybe helps with them, in terms of crowd noise, and gets everybody excited. So I think that's going to be a big key for Buffalo to come out fast. And I think that's what makes us very, shall I say, nervous, is that we haven't seen our team play in the preseason. Now, the Ravens did either, and I think that's just how it is.
Yeah.
Right? So sometimes we just don't know. But again,
as it should be.
Sean McDermott said, how much he game plans for in the preseason? He said maybe a 0 to a 1, probably a 0. Right?
Yeah.
They don't game plan. None of these guys do. I'm sure Harbaugh doesn't do it either. So I don't worry about it from that point of view. I've gone back and forth on this game, but I'm going to go with the mystique of our stadium. I know it's cliche, but I think we're going to find a way. But my confidence level, I would tell you, is not like 80%, 90%. It's probably more in the 50s. It's more of respect for the team we're playing. And I know how close these games are. I'll go 27-24, late win. Great game on Sunday night. We kick off our season. That's where I'm heading. But again, my confidence level is like 55-45. So what do you guys got for your predictions right now?
So I'll start. To me, this is a touchdown game for me. And there's some bias in there because of the kicking situation, and I'm not sure that Tyler Loop is going to get put in a situation where he's got to kick a game-winning field goal in Buffalo. Granted, the weather is not going to be snowy or anything like that, but I think I could see this being a touchdown game somewhere along the lines of 27-20 Ravens.
Okay.
I could see a score like that. I think it's a back and forth. Like I think scores are going to get traded back and forth. I don't think this is going to be a game where somebody gets ahead.
Oh,
and
Matt picks our leader of our podcast picks the Ravens. Matt Dygert, how could you? Let's have a conversation after the pod. I'm kidding. Yeah, but no, listen, that's what we do. That's why I love doing this with Whittle. We tell like it is here, right?
Yeah.
We're not, we don't, the term fanboys, we're not just sitting here putting our pom-poms for the Bills. We're going to tell you when we don't like things. We're going to critique things when necessary and call it out. Like my prediction is very uneasy right now. It's like very unstable. Like again, from a bet, I'm not feeling very confident. Again, that's a lot. That has to do with the respect I have for your team too. So that's part of it as well. And the revenge factor, let's be honest, the Ravens are coming in. They're feeling it from last year. That was a tough loss. We've been on that side of the ball. Right. We know how that feels. And sometimes you come out like we did that against the Chiefs. We lost, but we played in regular season and we beat them. Right. Yeah. So that's something else I'm thinking about in the back of my mind. So Jared, do you have a score prediction? We didn't get one from you.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Ravens. I'm gonna go 27. I'm gonna go 27-24 Baltimore. A lot of Bills fans, they may not be happy with what I'm saying, man, but to steal this from my guy Coach Sean, the truth is in the details. I'm sorry, from a schematic, I think the loss of losing Michael Hoyt, I actually think is a bigger impact on the team than I think more than usual, because I think that kind of minimizes exactly what I think Buffalo can do. I think, not to mention too, Deion Walker, TJ Sanders, they're gonna have to be a big part of the rotation as rookies. TJ Sanders has been pretty good for the preseason, but there's also been times where in duo, which Baltimore does run, they do run duo, they do run more of a gap scheme, he's been wiped. Deion Walker, I think that it may take a little bit more. I think Buffalo has a good idea in terms of what Deion Walker wants to play.
Yeah.
But again, he's a rookie. He's going to make some plays. I actually think he's going to make some plays in this game. He's going to make some impact. But he's a rookie. And Beyond, I've said this in spaces. I said 2 years from now, that dude's going to be an all-pro. And I will stick by it. I think 2 years.
But like you said, that takes a little time, right?
It takes time.
Right away. Yeah. He's going to get a little welcome to the NFL moment Sunday night, I'm sure.
I'm confident in the ends. I'm confident in the ends to put a little bit more pressure. I'm a big fan of Rosengarten ever since he played at Washington. Obviously, and then Ronnie Stanley, I think, is one of the better left tackles if he can stay healthy. So that's going to be a battle between Rousseau and Joey Bosa. Landon Jackson is going to be a part of that rotation. He's going to play. Javon Solomon, I'm sorry. I'm out of the Javon Solomon bandwagon. I'm sorry. That's just me personally. And so AJ Epinesa, he can win some battles here and there. So the tackle versus ends are going to be really, really good. But overall wise, from just a schematic standpoint, it's going to be fun. How does Taylor Rapp handle it? Baltimore, even though they don't have Likely, who that tight end that can stretch, they do have Zay Flowers who can stretch. And one thing that Baltimore was giving us issue was that Rashad Bateman, his ability to stretch and exploit, even when we were running cover 2 and sometimes even kind of cover 3 shell, he was able to kind of exploit and go right behind the defense still. Now, a big reason why was because of DeMar Hamlin, how crap he is, and thank God he's not playing. But overall wise, I think in terms of just matchups for this game, I think Baltimore just has the better matchups for this game. I think defensively, they just have the answers, I think, for their secondary. I am interested, though, in Travis Jones. I think he's going to play, but then you have the backup, which is John Jenkins, and they're going to rotate. They are a 3-4 team. They do run nickel here and there, but that's interesting because if Buffalo gets that run game going like we did in that first time, and we can be more consistent, that's going to set up a lot of play action. That's going to set up opportunities, especially in 12 where we can attack the seams. Kincaid may be a big one in this game as well. But no, I think 27-24. I think Baltimore just has the better matchups that I would just take for them to win for the first matchup. But we will rematch. Like the second time we play, I believe that we will rematch for sure. We'll meet in the playoffs. And, that's going to be fun because Baltimore potentially, if they're fully loaded versus our weapons when we're fully loaded, that's going to be really, really good because by that time we may have Harrison back, which is going to include more depth. If Dorian Strong continues to play, that's going to be that's going to add more depth in the rotation. Who knows? Again, this is an opportunity for Cole Bishop. This is his second game, third game as a full-time starter. By the time we get to this thing, Cole Bishop, we can then start implementing a lot more things with Cole Bishop. But most importantly, Deion Walker and TJ Sanders and potentially even Landon Jackson with the fact that Michael Hoyt, who you can use as a stand-up backer, you can line up in the A-gap. You can line him at 5-tech. You can line him at 4-eye. Hell, you can even play him at 3-tech. But most importantly, those dime packages, if we run like a 4-1-6, or you can run like a 3-2, or you can run a 3-2-6. And if Hancock can be more responsible and play more as a rover safety, those are the things that's going to be important. And Baltimore, I think, has that advantage right now to a point where Hamilton can play as a rover or he can play all around that line or star. They have Jair Alexander. They have Jair Alexander, who he may not play. I'm not too sure, but he will. But if they have him during the full season, that's going to be very crucial for them. But I just think that I trust Baltimore's secondary a little bit more than ours right now. I think that's the advantage that I think ultimately helps win. And I'll go with Baltimore to win this game 27-24.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I was just going to say something. If any of you guys play fantasy football, whether it's just for fun, whether you guys play DFS, 5-player lineups or parlays, the guy I'm looking at is Mark Andrews. Just from the standpoint of being able to, number one, he's going to be tight end 1. He's going to be the guy because of likely not being there. And number 2, he wants to get that drop 2-point conversion. He wants to get that out of his head, out of his system. And he could potentially have a monster game in this game Sunday night.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see mentally. We've seen some players over the years, and I go way back on this, have moments like that. I mean, we saw Tyler Bass when he missed that kick against the Chiefs, inexplicably getting death threats on Instagram from some weird. It was always a bad
playoff game,
apples in your fan. Yeah, always some bad apples in your fan base that send him bad messages and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he struggled after that. I mean, and even go way further back when Scott Norwood missed the biggest kick ever.
Yeah.
But he was never the same after that. Right now, again, I'm not comparing the two. I'm just saying there is a mental side to this that I think Mark, and listen, he's in a great organization. Again, just tell him, hey, just be Mark Andrews. Don't do more, don't do less. Let the game come to him. And then I think he'll be able to move on from that. Because, I just thought they were just way too harsh on him. In that moment, there's no guarantee. Listen, what if we come down and kick the field goal? There's no guarantees. It's not like that was like 5 seconds left and that was going to decide the game. But still, listen, we all get emotional and it is what it is.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
you
really quick,
you got to catch it.
really quick while I had you guys. So we'll do a little rapid fire here and I'm going to throw this out to the chat. And this has been a great show, by the way. I want to thank you all both of you guys for coming on. You guys are awesome. I can't thank you enough. I could never do this for more than 15 minutes. I'd be done. So anyway, rapid fire predictions for the NFL season 2025. I think we'll take this pretty simply. You can give me division winners, maybe playoff teams if you'd like. Maybe a hot take if you had one. It's okay if you don't. Doesn't have to be wild. It doesn't have to be like the Giants are going to win 14 games or anything. But you know what I mean? Just something that kind of stands out. But we could start in the NFC. I figure we'll start there and maybe get your guys' thoughts on that. If you want, I could start with the NFC and kind of go from there. I think the top 2 seeds are going to be Philadelphia and Green Bay. I like Green Bay. I think Green Bay. I think Matt LaFleur is one of the most underrated coaches in the business. I think he's a really good coach, and it's not even with the Parsons move. I just think last year when they played the Eagles, they were really banged up in that game, and they pushed the Eagles pretty hard in that wild card game.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens there. I like Tampa as well. Oh, and we have a late entry here to the party. Let's stop it right now and let's introduce another Raven fan. And you all know him from the Spaces, and I see you already smiling because you know who it is. And I'm happy to have on Trippy Kicka. Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast.
My dog.
Welcome to the
There
party.
he is.
Welcome to the party.
What's up? Can you hear us? You may be on mute as an FYI. So I brought you up for this. We're doing some rapid fire predictions. So I'll make it quick here in the NFC. Tampa, I have winning the division. Rams, I have winning. NFC title game, I got Green Bay versus Philly. And I know it's a little bit of chalk, but yes, I'm going with the Eagles again in the NFC. I just think they have the most impact. See, I know people say Baltimore is the best roster, but for me, Philadelphia is my choice, and I'll tell you why. I think they have – you got potential franchise players in a few different places at Philly. Offensive line, defensive line. Then you have Q as a corner. He could be a great corner. Of course, Jalen Carter. I mean, he's a monster. That guy in the middle. Their line is ridiculous. Saquon's incredible. A.J. Brown is still a tremendous number one wide receiver. I just think they're the best. They're the best team in the NFC still, and I think they'll come out of the NFC. So, what about you guys? If you want to do some rapid fire NFC predictions, whatever way you want to do it.
I'm gonna just stick with this week one. Matchup between the Commanders and the Giants, right?
There you go.
I've watched a little bit of Giants preseason. Now, granted, Jackson Dart's not going to get the start. It's going to be Russell Wilson going in, but all three of those quarterbacks have played quite well in the preseason. I got an upset here. I think the Giants are going to upset the Commanders week one.
I'm with you on this. I really am. And maybe it's a hot take. I don't see the Commanders making the playoffs this year. I think they're going to be they're going to be a 2 steps back, maybe 3 steps forward in a couple of years kind of team. I love Jaden Daniels, by the way. Right, yeah. He's going to be a great quarterback. I just think there's some issues I see on that team in terms of their roster. I think they were very fortunate to win a few games last year. 9-8 could be their year. What I mean is, but then once they change over the roster, make some other moves, right? Then I think you'll see them really ascend towards where I think Jaden Daniels will be. I just have this odd feeling they have an off year. And the NFC is getting tougher than you think now. The NFC is coming up now in quality, right? The AFC was kind of ruling it for a few years, but the NFC is really, you got some really good teams down there. You got Seattle, you got Tampa, you got Detroit, of course. You got, even Chicago starting to make a push now. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
I think you got to put Tampa in a conversation to.
That's my Super Bowl pick.
Compete for a Super Bowl. I think you and a lot of people, they don't put Tampa there because of the division that they play in, but you got to watch Tampa when they don't play their Falcons, the Saints, and the Panthers. You got to watch them against these other teams. Like last year, they beat the Eagles early in the season. They beat Detroit earlier in the season. The two teams that, going into last year, people were talking about, Tampa beat both of those teams.
Yep.
So they can compete with any of those other NFC teams that's not in their division, but they don't get put in that conversation because of, the competition within. But reality sets in. They're not going to be playing those teams when it's playoff time. They're going to be a tough out.
And for the record, what's Whittle's pick in the NFC is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that's a team I hated leaving out here. I think Green Bay and Tampa Bay are very, very close. Like, would it surprise me if Tampa Bay made it to the Super Bowl? Maybe not as much as, Whittle's really, really high. He picked Baker Mayfield to win MVP, which, that's a great take. I mean, that'd be great odds, by the way, if you could bet on Baker Mayfield to win MVP.
He put up MVP numbers last year.
He's been excellent, and they got, again, say what you want. Bowles is kind of quiet, but he's a good coach, man. That guy, he's very well respected. Very solid. And like I said, that division isn't that, they could be able to rack some wins in that division too. So
Absolutely.
that's probably going to be the key for them. They can't be slipping up against New Orleans or Carolina. They got to sweep those games, and then we'll see what they can do.
But they could compete against the Eagles, Detroit.
Yep.
I mean, they could compete against those guys too.
Yep. But I like your Giants pick because they got a pretty nasty front four developing.
Yeah,
in New York right now.
That's going to be key.
Yep, and Wilson's solid. He'll be steady enough for them. It's going to be a major upgrade for them what they've had the last couple of years. I like the way Jeff thinks here. Joshua and MVP again. Yes, I like that. Speak that into the universe. I know Trey doesn't like that too much, but hey,
just don't take it from Lamar. Just don't take it from Lamar.
Hey, we'll share. We'll go every other year. How does that sound? A couple of years for Josh, a couple of years for Lamar. You know what? Hey. We'll all toast at the end, as they say, right? So, yeah. Jarek, do you have a NFC prediction?
Yeah, the Giants are going to blow out the Commanders in the first game.
Blow out the Commanders. Not even just a W. He's calling for the.
Yeah, they're going to blow them out. Yeah, and again, the Commanders can still make the playoffs. It's not going to be the end of the world, but
yeah,
that Giants people I don't think people truly realize how good I think that defensive line is. I mean, that is stacked with Dexter Lawrence. Yeah. Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and now Abdul Carter added to the mix. They had another defensive tackle that dominated David Edwards in our preseason game. And yeah, you're going to run a lot of base vanilla with your offensive line scheme, but our both. I mean, it's insane. Some of the stunts that they were running, some of the different alignments, formations that they were running within the defensive line. Having Brian Burns, kind of play more as your 7. Then you had what's his name, Abdul Carter. He was playing as a 4-eye. And was slanting and just slanted hard in the inside, and Torrance could not block him. It was nothing Torrance could really do, just because of the speed and power that that ability to convert speed to power is just insane that he can really do. Deion Dawkins was having hard times. Now Deion Dawkins is one of the 5 best tackles in my opinion in the National Football League, and Carter was it was a battle. Let's just say it was definitely more of a battle. Deion Dawkins, normally kind of plays in a 3. Sometimes. Again, he has like some of the wider, he has some of the wider splits out there, but he plays like mostly like in a 3-point, sometimes in a 3-point stance, just to kind of like say, you're not stopping me. But that's the time where I'm like, okay, I can't play in a 3-point stance. Let me get in my 2-point stance. We just widen out so I can get ready for this guy. No, the Giants front 7, I think is going to give that offensive line hell. I didn't really like their offensive line last year. When they had Larry Tunsil, I didn't really see too many of the improvements. I think this is a game where I think the trenches dominate, despite Jaden Daniels' mobility. I got the Giants with an upset and winning this game. I don't think their offense is going to dominate either. I just think it's short field. The Giants are going to have a lot of short field opportunities. I think they're going to utilize the run game a lot heavily. I like the improvements that they added there, and I think the Giants are going to go ahead blow up the Commanders' first game. And I could be totally wrong about it, but I've had this.
I like it. I like the way you guys think it. I do. I really, really do. And I like the Giants plus 6.5 this week as well. If you are, just bet responsibly, as they say. I know DH has picked the Cowboys here. No back-to-back winners in the NFC for 20 years. But yeah, I hate to say, I know she picked Dallas, but I'm going with the Eagles. The Eagles to me are really, in my opinion, the gold standard. I think what I mean is the reason I say the Eagles is they've done it with multiple quarterbacks. They've done it with multiple systems, multiple coaches. They have just, what I mean? Like Kansas City's done it with Mahomes, right? New England did it with Brady. The Eagles have done it with, McNabb was amazing, right? Then Michael Vick was a great reclamation project. They always seem to find, then they do it with Nick Foles for crying out loud. They did it with Dougie Peterson as their coach. And then now they're doing it with Nick Sirianni, a guy that they wanted to run out of town 2 years ago, right?
Right.
He's
after going to the Super Bowl, by the way.
Yeah, they lost to the wild card to Tampa, right? And remember the Eagles Jared, because after they beat us in that wild game after Thanksgiving, right? Remember the Eagles took a tumble that year after that game.
Really after that, they
went overtime.
Overtime.
Yep, and they wanted to do that, but I just feel like I just love their GM is amazing. I mean, he's another one, very much like Baltimore. Like, how the hell does he amass all this talent, right? How does Howie Roseman always seem to find these players? It just amazes me.
Easy.
Right? So
easy. For the most part, I mean, Howie Roseman got left, like he got left behind, a Hall. When you have like Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham, you have the offensive line that inherited. And then again, they had a couple of bad spots, but they had great draft positions to get players, to get certain players. Like you got a Jordan Davis in the first round. You were able to get a position where you got Carter literally with as a top 10 pick because he slid because of the the offseason thing that happened obviously. Otherwise he would have been easily a top 3 pick. And then a lot of the stuff again is simply because he's trading within the conference, not just within the conference, but within the division, which is with the Commanders. Thanks a lot because we could have maybe had a Cooper DeJean. Unfortunately, no. They got Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, and then just got a bunch of Georgia players, right? Get Georgia and Bama players. They have the most Georgia and Bama players out of anybody in the league. Just go to the SEC. Dominate, stash the players up, and then when they're ready to roll, you rotate them in. I mean, it's bad enough that a rookie first round Jahad Campbell is not going to start. He's a first round pick. Some people are saying he's a bust already. No, it's because they're stashing him. They're ready just in case if Nakobe Dean goes, he's playing right next to Zach Bond next year.
Yeah, absolutely. So we could pivot to the AFC if you guys would like to. But what is your guys' pick of the NFC for the Super Bowl? By the way, do you have one? If you wanted to interject, do you have a specific team in mind, or are you kind of waiting this out a little bit?
I mean, the Eagles is the easy pick.
I know it is. Right now. I can't get past them.
It's the easy pick, but if you look at the history of the NFL, I mean, rarely do you see a team in the NFC, repeat, like this.
True.
So if I had to pick a team that's not Philly, I would go with Green Bay just because of the Micah Parsons trade. Because I think, and like you said earlier, in that matchup in the playoffs, the Packers played the Eagles tough. If it's not for Jordan Love, turning the ball over, Green Bay probably wins that game. And if you remember, in the opener last year in Brazil, they played them tough too in that game also. So they seem to figure Philly out in certain ways. They just need that one play or couple of plays to get them over the hump. And I think Micah Parsons is that player that in a situation where it's the fourth quarter, minute left, and you're talking about that offensive line for the Eagles versus that defense for Green Bay, that's a good chess match right there. I mean, it could go either way. Green Bay is certainly, to me, the second best team in the conference right now.
Absolutely. Jared, did you think an NFC? You got the Bucks?
Yeah, I got the Buccaneers making it. Whittle, he convinced me of that because otherwise I was going to go up the Rams, but their secondary is just so questionable. I have so many questions about how the secondary is going to operate, but their defensive line is stacked. Matthew Stafford, the health concerns scare me with the back issues at age, at 38. That scares me. So, but no, I go with the Bucks. Their offensive line, they have one of the best offensive lines in the league. I think they have the best running back duo in the league with Rashad White, who, and on any other team would have been an RB1.
Very underrated.
Very underrated running back. And then you have what's his name, the kid from Oregon. Who that's the best duo backfield in the league. Got Mike Evans. I love some of the additions that they got through the draft. They got it, through the NFL draft. You got Chris Godwin there, Mike Evans there. You got the kid from Ohio State that's going to be more of their slot receiver. Like Millen's still on that team. So I mean, the Buccaneers from an offensive standpoint, I think they might have one of the most balanced, loaded rosters I think in the National Football League. And then defensively, they got a pretty good solid front seven. Vita Vea is still there, who's one of the best nose tackles in the league. I love the Diabis of the world. I mean, they are solid. They're really, really solid. I mean, be on the lookout for Seth Roberts from SMU, who's been having a dominant preseason, who's looking to add to that rotation. Their secondaries, it's not the best in the world, but it's solid, right? It's good enough for them to still get by. So I got the Buccaneers winning.
And I love that. And you know what, Cherk? I love that Benjamin Morrison they added.
Oh my, he's had a great preseason. He's had a fantastic preseason. Trey Amos, Benjamin Morrison. We'll see. We'll see. Time will tell. But I'm just saying,
I know.
If Benjamin Morrison just goes off, I'm gonna be pissed. It is what it is. But no, their secondary I think is going to be solid. But overall wise, I just think in terms of a balanced team that can compete with Philadelphia, the only other team besides the Packers that were doing it was the Bucs, and I think their roster is even more loaded. Because I have questions about the Packers' ability to stop the run. Adding Micah Parsons does not help your ability to stop the run because a lot of the times they run at Micah Parsons because he cannot shed in the run game. I mean, he has a problem. You know, we can criticize Jerry Jones we want. The one thing he said that was factual was that they needed to get better in the run game, and Micah Parsons was not helping that out because he's 240 pounds playing at, that's mostly has his hand in the dirt when he should be playing more as a hybrid role, more as a 3-4 kind of hybrid linebacker. That's exactly what he was at Penn State.
Do you think he'll do that in Green Bay though? Do you think that's how
they could? They could because Rashawn Gary played because Rashawn Gary is a hybrid and he plays a lot more of a at a 2-point stance more than anything. So it could be that possibility. It's just that in run fits, where are you going to play him? Where are you going to play him when it comes to run fits? And so that's the concern that I have with the Packers is they actually took away one of their best run defenders and Kenny Clark. They took that away now. Like they have nothing but penetrating 3-techs, wide gap players. So that's kind of my concern. They were one of the worst rushing defenses in the National Football League last year. It's been addition by subtraction, and so I just don't think the Packers if they were able to improve in the run game, then yeah, they'll watch out for them. But I got the Bucs. The Bucs pretty much have a lot of answers.
Bucs are very interesting. Yeah.
Right. I got the Bucs.
See, Jared,
say hello to Guru. Guru, welcome to the party. It's good to see you down there.
What's up, Guru?
What's up, Guru?
Yeah, Jared, I got a question for you because me and my podcast partner, shout out to my guy Maestro Styles, we were talking about this on the show earlier. Them trading Micah Parsons because they need to get better in run defense, to me, just sounds like a cop-out. And here's why I say that, because Micah Parsons is one of the best pass rushers in the game. He sets the edge better than anybody, in the league, right? So if I'm the Cowboys and I know I got run defense problems, why don't I just go out and just get me a nose tackle or get me that D tackle that's going to help me protect, Micah Parsons?
Or how about you play Micah Parsons at his natural spot, which is an off-ball linebacker that he was really good at Penn State against playing against the run. He can diagnose. He can play that spot.
Okay.
Again. Now they drafted Mozzie Smith in the first round. He just ended up being a bust.
Right.
But they miss Lawrence. Lawrence was that edge defense, was that guy that could get after the quarterback, but he was also a phenomenal edge defender. They don't have a Lawrence anymore. Micah Parsons he is still a phenomenal pass rusher. I just feel like they just underutilized him. He got there straight from camp and they just put him and they're playing him more as a 4-3 end. Right. I don't think he's a 4-man. I don't think that in the run game he's a 4-man end. He is he's a hybrid player.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. I can see that from that perspective. I just look at it from the standpoint when you're building a team and you got a guy like him that's averaging 12 sacks a season. He's got a Hall of Fame trajectory, and your run defense is not like I don't put that on Micah Parsons.
That's not his
game
fault.
Against Green Bay. Them against the Eagles and them getting gashed in the run game. I don't blame that on Micah Parsons. Now, do they run towards his side sometimes? And do they get the best of him on the edge at times? Sure. He's also protected the edge pretty well in other occasions as well. My thing is this. You keep Micah Parsons, and you need to find somebody that's going to go out and protect Micah Parsons. Like I remember years ago when Ray Lewis was kind of coming out of his prime, and we had some issues in run defense one year, and Ray Lewis came out in the media and said this. He said, "Look, Ravens got to go find somebody that could protect me." And this is the middle linebacker they're talking about. He said they got to find somebody to protect me. And what did the Ravens do that next year? They drafted Haloti Ngata. And that, and the rest was history. Haloti Ngata became one of the best, nose tackles, in the game. So I just think that, you know, Jerry's coming out and saying that was such a cop out to me, that you don't trade an all pro, you know, pass rusher because, you know, you're trying to get better in the run game. Like that just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, you're making your pass rushing unit worse by taking Micah Parsons out. I mean, yeah, you may improve in the run game, but your pass rushing
exactly,
because now you have to rely on rookies and kind of other first year or second year veterans to. I mean, Dante Flower, who's if healthy could be a 8-9 sack guy, but that's your best pass rusher now on your team and a bunch of rookies. You're making your pass rushing unit worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
I agree.
For the future, though, this is why I will give Jerry Jones credit, because in the future, because with those 2 first-round picks, you can actually get more of a Lawrence type of caliber player who can both rush the quarterback and consistently set that edge, playing more as who you can select. You can't use Micah Parsons at 4-eye, and if you're going to use him at 4-eye, he's getting after the quarterback. He's not playing anything against the run if you're playing him at 3 or 4-eye. You can do that though if you draft a Reuben Bain. You can do that if you get I'm not going to say like a Peter Woods, and this is for like next year's draft, but you can do that with Reuben Bain. You can do that with the Keldrick Falk, who already does that at Auburn, who's 6'6", 280 pounds. You know, that's the type of players that you can get after next year, who are going to be young guys, but they're more kind of balanced 40-man front players compared to a Parsons, who I actually think would be a lot better if he plays in a 3-4. That's his home, in my personal opinion. But for the future, I think it can work. But the problem is, Dak Prescott's 31 or going to be 30. Like you're in a window now, and so that's kind of the problem, is that you're worsening your pass rushing unit. You can set yourself up for the future, but you're not setting yourself up for the present.
Are they in a window though? Because I think them trading Micah Parsons might have shut it some. I could see them trading Dak Prescott next offseason. I could see that being a possibility. Now his contract is a bit, high, so they might not be able to do that. But look, I just think, and to kind of go back to what you said about the draft picks, Green Bay is going to be picking in the 20s because Green Bay is expected to be good. So those guys you talked about, them potentially getting next year in the draft, are they even going to be available? By the time, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. You're gonna have to you're gonna have to trade all the way up. I mean, the good thing for them is that they have 4 first-round picks for the next 2 years.
Yeah,
trade that up. You got to trade those picks immediately just to get in that position.
That's true.
Get a potential Micah, and that's just a gamble, because Micah Parsons was a 1 of 1, and then here comes Abdul Carter, who is like that next generation of a Micah Parsons, but I think he's more advanced because he had a year of where he played that defensive end position. Micah never played that until he got to Dallas. That's what makes him a unique player.
Just to give a shout out to Guru here, he says, "Ever heard of TJ Watt? He was picked 30th in the draft, so you can get players
that's true.
of that ilk at that position." So I just figured that was a perfect time to get that up there. So I didn't want Guru to think that we forgot TJ.
There ain't a lot of TJ Watts though. I think there's not a lot of TJ Watts.
Not a lot. Not with that impact when it comes to winning games. Not with that impact.
Yep. So again. So speaking of that, how about we pivot to our conference? And we talk about the AFC, right? The grand finale here. So, crystal ball, who wants to go first in terms of playoffs, predictions, conference, whatever? Who wants to take the first leap of faith on the American Football Conference?
So I'll go first here. So look, obviously, the Ravens are going to go to the Super Bowl. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I'm just gonna throw that out there. The Ravens finally get over that hump to get to the Super Bowl. But I got a second hot take, if it is a hot take. In y'all's division, there's questions about who's second, third, fourth place in that division. The Jets have a promising run game. They lost Vera Tucker to an injury. I think he's going to be gone for the season. So there's an issue there. The Dolphins, I think the coach is on the hot seat. The Patriots, though, if I had to pick a team to finish second place in the AFC East, it would be the New England Patriots. Okay. Stephon Diggs, and I know he hasn't been Stephon Diggs of old, but him and Drake May, they could cause some issues, throughout the regular season. Not to say that they're going to be this dynamic duo or anything like that, but if you're not really paying attention, they could kill you on some plays. And then you got a coach that has, been through, going back to Tennessee. They, you got a coach in Vrabel that's experienced and, knows what he's doing, well respected. Patriots could win 9 games this year.
Okay.
And could be second place in that division.
Yep. Now, I think, listen, I like what they're doing too. I think, we did have a great Miami guest on last week. What's interesting about Miami is they still have a pretty good roster, right? The thing with them is what's the turmoil going to be like in terms of the coach? Like, so for them, it's about the start. I feel like if they get off to a good start, they might surprise some teams. I really like their front four. I like what they're doing there.
Yeah.
So I still got them as second. I got the Bills obviously winning the division still. I do have Baltimore winning the division. I'm going with DH's picks here. I know they're boring, but until somebody proves me wrong about the Chiefs, I'm picking them. I'm sorry. I know Denver's coming fast.
Yeah.
I love what Denver's building, but I still think they'll find a way to win the division. As far as the playoffs, a guru will be happy. I do have Pittsburgh making the playoffs as well. So I just wanted to put that out there. Getting in the dance this year with the 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers under the helm. But I'm sorry, just please continue. I'm sorry. So you got Baltimore, and who do you have them playing in
the Super
title?
Bowl? Be an all-bird Super Bowl. I know I said Green Bay might, be the second best team there, but let it just be an all-bird Super Bowl because it's time. It's time for those two cities to be, going against each other. Two cities that got respect for each other. They're like two cousins. They both places have similarities in terms of hoods and the way these cities landscape is and all that stuff. So you get Eagles and Ravens in the Super Bowl.
Ooh. And am I anticipating that you are picking the Ravens to win it all against the Eagles in a rematch of this past year when the Eagles, they did take you out in Baltimore
they did
last year. Now,
they did.
Do you think the rematch would go in your favor this time?
Yeah, I think so. I think what really has to happen though, and just in generally speaking about the Ravens in the playoffs, the defense has to come and play. And what I mean by that is you look at Lamar's playoff games and you look at how the defense performs in those games that he started. 2 turnovers in 8 playoff games for Lamar Jackson. Two turnovers. When you look at Kansas City, Mahomes could have a bad interception, but Chris Jones is always there to clean something up. McDuffie and that whole defense, that defense is going to make plays. They're going to make game, changing plays to close games out. Your defense always seems to come up in critical moments. Every time Josh might have maybe a critical turnover, a fumble here, a bad, turnover there. Defense always seems to bail out Josh Allen in certain situations. But the Ravens in the playoffs, it seems like this defense, and Marlon Humphreys talked about this, and he said it maybe yesterday or the day before, and saying, look, defense is not feared as it once was. And it's been like that even before Lamar got there. Since Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, and those guys, since those guys left, that defense hasn't really been feared like that, right? So I'm just looking for this defense to make some game-changing plays, 4th down sack, strip fumble, turnovers, I'm looking for those things, in the Lamar era. I'm looking for those things from the defense when it comes to being in the playoffs. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. So Jarek, how about you? What you got for the AFC?
Well, yeah, I got the Bills winning the division. I think for obvious reasons. AFC North, I got the Baltimore Ravens winning that division. Hot take, Zach Taylor. Well, I don't even shouldn't say this more hot take. I think Zach Taylor gets fired mid-season.
Ooh, wow. Well, that is kind of a hot take. He's a good coach.
Yeah, he's a good coach. He's got to go though. Not just him, not just him though. The general manager, I think, is going to get fired too. I think they've made terrible decisions. Obviously handling the Trey Henderson situation. I think their roster from what it was in 2021 and 2022 to now what it is now. I mean, they're losing a lot of their impactful defensive players. They have not helped out Joe Burrow. They both have to go, and I think mid-season is when it's potentially going to happen.
You know who their general manager is, though, right?
What's his name? I forgot the name.
It's the owner.
Oh, well, there it is. Well, they're stuck. They're stuck. Yeah,
it's Mike Brown.
Mike Brown. Yeah. Wow. Well, they're stuck. Unfortunately. So yeah, I mean, it is what it. I mean, it ain't gonna hurt me. So it is what it is. But no, I think I got the Ravens. I got the Ravens, Steelers making the postseason. Broncos. I got the not winning the division. I got the Chiefs still winning that division. But I got the Chiefs, Broncos, and then I got the Chiefs, Broncos winning it. And then for the AFC South, I got the Texans. I got the Texans doing it. And hot take, I'm going to stick with it. I've been flipping with it, but I think I might go with the Colts to make the playoffs. I think I got the Colts.
The Colts?
Yeah, I got.
You know what, Jared? They have a good roster.
The
Colts. Really do. They're better than people think. I will agree with that.
Yeah. Daniel Jones?
He just needs to play average. Like he can, if he plays average, I think that team's good enough to make the playoffs because the run game, they have one of the top run games in the National Football League. The receivers, I mean, come on now. I mean, with Pierce, Josh Downs, I think Anai Mitchell as a fourth receiver could be solid.
He's gonna take a step. He's had a great camp.
None of them guys scare me.
Pittman is one of the best, is one of the better number ones. I mean, they have one of the most talented receiving cores in the league. And then you add Tyler Warren. Then you add Tyler Warren, who was a first round tight end. I mean, their defense. If their defense can improve in stopping the run, their pass defense is solid, like really freaking solid. They got a phenomenal interior pass rushing unit. I think Latu is going to take that next step and potentially could be that pass rusher for them. It's just their run defense. And then the other side, the other weakness is Daniel Jones. That's it. It's the run defense and Daniel Jones. And so when you have those two weaknesses, if you can just mitigate at least one of them, I think the Colts can be good enough to make it. I mean, Anthony, the quarterback play
that is a hot take.
Has been terrible. They made the postseason with Joe Flacco at the helm, and he played.
They almost made it with Minshew, didn't they? A couple years ago.
I think they did make it with Minshew. Actually, it's just
they didn't.
They lost that last game of the year. I thought they lost
they lost that last game of the year to Texas, but I think they went 10-7 still. They just lost to the Texans for that battle. Like
8 or 9 games or something like that. Yeah.
Like they got a good roster. It's just it's quarterback. It's just quarterback. If he can just play average, that team's good enough to make it because that division sucks. Yeah, the Texans we all know are going to most likely going to win that division, but they're not going to be safe. They could very well split because the Texans haven't addressed the offensive line concerns. They got a lot of young pieces playing at that receiving core. They got injuries at the running back position. They're just not going to win that division smoothly. I think the Colts can definitely steal a game. And then I think the Dolphins. I got the Dolphins. No, because I got the Steelers making it. So the Dolphins would probably be the one-man out team. And that's just until Tua can play, he's got to show me he can stay healthy. You got to show me. If he plays 17 games, then take the Colts out. The Dolphins are making it in. Simple as that. But I can't see it. He's only played one healthy season in the last 9 years of his career. Think about that for a second. The last 9 years. College. In high school, when he was at St. Louis in Honolulu, Hawaii, he suffered injuries there. He couldn't play full season.
Right.
Wow, that's telling.
Like we got to go back to high school. The last time that man was healthy. I mean, it's just
kind of a shame because he would have had a really good career if he.
Yeah, it's just I can't. You got to show me, man. If he can stay healthy for 17 games, they'll make the postseason. Take the Colts out, they're in, no doubt. I just got to see it.
Yep, I agree. So, Jarek, how about conference title Super Bowl? You got some thoughts on that?
Conference championship, Bills, Chiefs again.
And the Chiefs will win that game again. The Chiefs will win.
Oh,
The Chiefs will win.
Oh, Derek, what are you doing to me right now?
He's lowering the expectations so that when it happens, he's not disappointed.
No, this is not lowering the expectations. The truth is the truth is in the details. I'm sorry.
You're right. You're right. Listen, I respect it. It's just like it just hits a little harder every year.
Their coaching staff is better than ours. They have superior coaching, and they have shown the ability. They have shown the ability to make plays when the game is on the line. They make plays. They make plays.
Yeah, I can't argue with you.
Right. Calling some sort of exotic blitz, some sort of exotic design blitz call, or if it's a Chris Jones, or it's a or it's an Amenahu, it's somebody on that defensive line that's making plays when the game is on the line. Their defense is going to be really good. Their offensive line, I think, is going to be improved just because of the addition of Josh Simmons. And then I'm sorry, Rashee Rice is one of the best route running receivers in the league. I don't care if he's a second-round pick and he could never take one to the house. The dude was literally top 5 in receiving yards before Patrick Mahomes tore his ACL. Yeah. Patrick, why are you blocking on the field anyway? But I'm sorry. I think the Chiefs, that division is going to be a lot harder. I don't think it's going to be easy. Matter of fact, I think the Bills will have home field. I think the Bills will have home field advantage by the time we play Kansas City, because I think that's how difficult the division is. I just think
this hurts even more.
Yeah,
Derek.
Derek. Listen. I gotta be consistent with my takes. I think we are a year away. I think we're about a year away. We need one more draft. We need one more year of more talent on that defense on that defensive line. I cannot trust a Deion Walker in a TJ Sanders in the AFC Conference Championship game. I cannot do that. I cannot trust a Larry Ogunjobi. I just can't. And so they can make plays, but ultimately we need a Chris Jones. You gotta have that dude.
Chris Jones really is the difference between those two teams. A lot of people talk about Mahomes and Allen. That's not the difference. The difference is Chris Jones.
It's Chris Jones and the coaching staff. They just find they're built for this, and we are a team that we're on the cusp.
Right? Yeah,
and it's annoying as hell. Now, if we can get past Kansas City, that's completely fine. Then that's awesome. That's great. I gotta see it to believe it.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what. I'm gonna tell you what, Jarek. I'm gonna tell you what. I have the Bills playing the Chiefs in the divisional round this year.
Okay.
And I'm gonna give you a comparison because we talked baseball before, right, Trey?
Yeah.
Remember when the Red Sox beat our Yankees finally in 2004? And they broke.
Unfortunately, yes.
I believe it. But what happened after that, I thought Boston as an organization, they went, finally. We finally beat the Yankees, right? We got over the big monkey in our back, the whole blah,
Yep.
So what I'm going with this year is that the Bills finally, and I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying. We might be a year away from really hitting our optimal stride, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I do agree with that. I have this feeling, though. I like where Josh is mentally right now. I like so many additions we made. I think we're going to find a way to beat the Chiefs, and we're going to play you again in the conference title game. Trey, last game at the stadium, I'm going for the drama, and we're going to find a way, again, as a team, to tactically find a way to beat you. We're going to finally get over the hump. Once we beat Kansas City and slay that dragon, we can finally put Kansas City to rest. And I think the Bills can ascend from there, go to Super Bowl, play the Eagles. Are they going to win, though? That's the question.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just leave it at that. I would say that Josh Allen may do everything possible. He'll probably run 30 times if he has to win that game. I feel like he could be that kind of guy, but I think he'll find a way to finally put one in the trophy case in Western New York to close the old stadium, open anew with the new stadium next Thursday night in Buffalo. Now, again, this is it's not a super confident prediction, but I understand where Jarek's going. I understand how tough our conference is. I understand how tough the Ravens are. I just have a gut that this may be it. But I also acknowledge what Jarek says, that we might be just a year early on our defense. That's the one thing in the back of my mind that we just have to see before it really
we
comes
need
true.
we need a deeper rotation. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's more depth in the secondary and it's your defense. Jordan Hancock is too young. Hancock's young.
Yeah,
strong,
unless he makes some miracle. But you're right. It's not likely that those guys, and this was pretty cool that we did have CBS Sports did put Deion Walker on their all rookie team this year. So that was pretty cool.
He's going to have a good rookie season. Now, despite everything I said, I think Walker's going to be the best rookie on the team. I think he's going to have a phenomenal season. But what he actually could be is scary. Like it's scary, man. I can't wait to see it. But this is the question, and this is to me is if we don't make it to the Super Bowl, fans are going to want McDermott's head. Regardless of what, we can go 15-2. We go to a conference championship game and lose. Like we can have one of the best seasons in Bills history. We don't make it to a Super Bowl. Bills fans are going to want his head, and they're going to call for the firing of McDermott. Now, obviously, it won't happen. But like I'm looking at all these videos, I'm looking at all the content creators. They're doing, just huge, Bills deep dives, and they've all said the same thing. McDermott and his coaching, they're phenomenal. Coaching staff is phenomenal. They always give him like an A or A minus, but they've always said the same thing. He can't get to the Super Bowl. He needs to go. And it's like, well, what other reason besides that? It's because he's got Josh Allen. And it's not a valid reason to let McDermott go, but I get it at the same time, because it's like we're going into year 10 and he still hasn't gotten Josh Allen to a Super Bowl. And so so the pressure is going to be on McDermott and that thing to get that thing rolling. I think his job is secured anyway, because Pagula won't let him go. But the fans will call for his head if we don't go, and that's going to be very interesting to see.
I think we have to at least get there, right? If we lose to the Eagles, and the Eagles are just this incredible team,
we'll be fine. Yeah, Bills fans wouldn't care. We'll just be glad that we.
We'll care because we lost our fifth. But which I don't even want to shudder at that thought. Going through 4 of those was enough. As a 17 to 20-year-old kid. Oh. Yeah, by the way, lived in almost Central North Jersey, where Whittle's from. Growing up as a Bills fan was not an easy thing with that Norwood kick. It was rough. It was not fun. But anyway,
and a loss to the Eagles this season
would be the whole division.
You know what that would mean? All your losses, every team in the NFC East. You don't want that.
Oh,
you don't want that.
No. We're gonna find a way. Josh Allen, 40 rushes, find a way. You can retire. Hallie's got your back. You got enough money. You're good. You're all right. Go play golf. We're good. We'll take the one Super Bowl. Yeah. I'm good to go. But anyway, we're about 2 hours in. I must bid farewell tonight, even though it's still only 8:00 here. I got some things to do. But thank you both for coming on. Trey, where can we find you online? Could you give us your Twitter handle, please? I'd like to put that up there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my Twitter handle is at barbershop SPOR 2. And that's where you can
SPOR2 Barber SPOR2.
No, barbershop SPOR2.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah. So
got it.
So that's where you
barbershop SP, just like that, right? Barbershop
yep, just like
SPOR2.
That. Yep, that's
okay, great. Just wanted to let everybody know. Give you a follow, listen to your podcast, and you are a definite friend of us here at Coast to Coast, and we really enjoy having you on for this. And I have a feeling we're going to see you again at some point, like Jarek keeps alluding to, and I agree with him that I think this is just the beginning of our journey. And just listen, I agree. Thank you, Trey. Great guest. I couldn't agree more. So thank you very much. We love having you on here.
Can I make an announcement?
Of course you can.
If you don't mind.
Yeah.
So as you guys can see, so I got a banner behind me and I got a T-shirt on with 10 years on it with our logo.
Nice.
So
wow,
me and Maestro Styles. That's my brother for 23 years since I moved here in the area.
Wow.
We started this podcast 10 years ago in his living room with just 2 mics, and that was it. We pre-recorded podcast episodes early on, and then one half of the 2 Live Stews reached out to us and put us on his podcast network at the time. So
is that called 2 Live Stews, like 2 Live Crew? That is cool.
Yes,
that's cool. I love that.
It is. By the way. It is. Yes.
Got that. Okay.
Shout out to Doug Stewart. Shout out to the homie there.
There you go.
So yeah, we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary of the podcast this year. We're
Wow,
celebrating.
congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's a huge accomplishment for the both of us. We're about almost approaching 450 episodes, since we started this thing 10 years ago.
Wow.
And in light of us celebrating 10 years, if any of you guys in the chat that are Bills fans, if any of you guys are in the Baltimore area, DC, Virginia, the whole DMV area, we are having a watch party for the Canelo versus Crawford fight on Saturday, September 13th.
Cool.
Nottingham.
Week and a half away, man. I cannot wait for that fight.
Yeah,
that's gonna be a good one.
That's gonna be a huge one. That definitely is gonna be a huge fight there. So, but yeah, follow us on Twitter at Barbershop SPOR2. We also are on Instagram. Also, the Instagram handle is at Barbershop Sports Talk Podcast. And if you go to our bio, there's a link in there. If you want to purchase tickets to come to the watch party, you can do so there. We're going to have, food. It's going to be an open bar. We're going to take pictures and, folks get to come out and meet me and Maestro. If you guys want to share some, sports takes, or if you guys had any issues with what we said in the past, y'all can finally come, say it to our faces and all that good stuff.
Airing the grievances, so to speak.
Right. And more importantly, the main event, which is Canelo versus Crawford. So, again, Saturday, September 13th, 8:30, Nottingham's Tavern in Columbia, Maryland. Go to our Instagram page at Barbershop Sports Talk Podcast. There's a link there if you want to purchase tickets. And if you still want to come but haven't purchased your ticket yet, you can pay so at the door. So just wanted to throw that out there. And again, Beyond, I just want to appreciate you and thank you for letting me on your platform to talk Bills.
It's a pleasure. It is. We really enjoy it. And we got to thank Whittle too. He's hard at work. We want him gainfully employed so he could come back and
gotta get money.
Join us.
Gotta get money.
Yeah. Hey, listen, it happens. He's doing he's got to do. Jarek, I want to thank you as always, man. I always enjoy our conversations here on this pod, and especially in our spaces. I look forward to it all the time. So
yeah, man.
And
no problem.
Definitely. And again, Jarek's one of the best with the draft. He really goes deep into the college prospect. I mean, he forgets probably more than I know at this point about some of the college prospects. So look for some more great stuff coming up. So again, as we reconvene next week, and I agree with Steve. Blue Crab at Baltimore is pretty elite. I will say I can speak on. I'm a former Jersey kid. I spent a lot of time in Baltimore, so they have a lot of great food. It's a great area down there. I really always enjoy it down that way. So
it's a great
definitely
city.
Great time. It really
great
is.
City.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it should be a great season. Let's kick this thing off. Let's have a great game. Let's have no injuries so we could go forward, and we'll go forward through September.
Absolutely.
Right. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us tonight. We're going to call it an evening. And again, thank you all in our chat. It was very lively. Over 600 listens tonight, even without, as Stu, our fearless leader, calls him, the almighty Whittle. Out of commission. We had the backup QB, like the Mitch Trubisky coming in for ball cap Josh coming. Hopefully we'll see Mitch Trubisky Sunday night, and not for the reason you think. But I don't think we're going to see a blowout. But I'm hoping. But I would be stunned.
Need the 2-star QBs there. Got to have them.
They'll be there. They'll be there at the end. So it should be a great game. Thank you all very much, guys, and we're going to end it and have a wonderful evening. Take care, guys.